Most investors are the acquisition team in their own business.
They're the ones making calls, closing deals, and wondering why nothing moves when they step away. In this office hours session, we brought in Tiffany and Josh High, who run a two-closer team doing over 200 contracts a year at Heels Homes, to break down the exact blueprint for building an acquisition team that performs without you. Let's get into it. Significant in both the real estate space and the education space. And that is Tiffany High and Josh High. So I'm gonna reintroduce again for whoever is new here in this calendar for our entrepreneurs that we have in school. This is the mastermind where you're gonna have a few calls every week, and there's a community of about 2,500 people. And today we are going to talk about how to build a $3 million a year acquisition team with the best in the business. If ask me for my opinion, they're the best in the business teaching it and actually doing it with in-person teams. So I'm going to be giving now the mic to Josh and Tiffany High. That we have them right here with a scared Google Meet. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
What's
so
happening?
wait, are you wanting us to present today, or were you going to ask us questions? Because I assumed you were asking us questions. I wasn't sure. I can
Yeah,
go
for
back
sure.
to my computer though if needed.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys have a presentation ready, set, ready to go, that will be amazing, and you guys can actually run through it. But I would definitely love to start with the question is like, so everyone here is trying to grow, right? So we got Brian Payne. He's a client of ours. He's hired his first setters and closers, and he's got to his first $50,000 a month with the help of ours. And there's other people that are already up there. There's other people that are kind of growing as well as they do this thing. I see Tony Javier in here. So I'd love to know what are the mistakes and what are the things that you should not do in order to actually build an acquisition team that people really make a mistake on. I think that will be the first question, and then maybe the first set of lists of like how to not actually build it correctly. That would be good to actually cover. And then if you guys can actually go through any type of masterclass or presentation to show us how to actually build it correctly, that will be great.
You want me to go back to my computer and bring up the Shadow Day PowerPoint slide?
The Shadow Day PowerPoint.
Because we're going over how we build the team.
Sure. Yeah, you can go grab that.
Right. I'm going to switch. He'll stay in here,
Actually,
but I'm
no,
going to go to my
no,
computer.
No, I disagree. Let's do this. So let's start with this question. We can talk through this pretty quickly.
Yep.
Well, you can stay here.
So how to not do it. Here's the biggest mistakes I see a lot of people make. They either run to hire friends or family, and then when they do that, they don't have, these are the things that I would like to break down depending upon what Tiff is thinking through. Once you find the right person, how do we make sure that we first and foremost onboard them effectively, right? What's the version of good with onboarding versus the version of bad? In order to do that, we also have to have a clearly defined sales process, right? So what do those components look like? Then when you onboard someone and they're following this process that you just trained them on, how do we hold them accountable? How do we set proper expectations and hold them accountable and performance manage them? Right? What KPIs are we tracking, and what tools or strategies are we using to keep that conversion skill set at its peak at all times? So I think those are the things that would make the most sense here to run through. So the biggest mistakes is they go and they hire friends or family. They don't set proper expectations and they don't set their team up for success, right? And they also make the mistake of, hey, here's a script and go close deals. And that's all they do. That's their version of onboarding. That is not good onboarding at all. Or they'll say, hey, come sit with me and shadow me for the next week. And then, good luck. Have at it. That's not good onboarding either. They need to know exactly what you want them to do and exactly how they go about doing it on a day-to-day basis, right? Other mistakes that people make is they don't
Josh.
manage them. Yes.
Hey,
You're
I'm on. I'm going to share my screen if that's cool. That way we can follow.
Love that. Yeah,
Okay.
Go for it.
I love that studio, by the way. It's gonna like a 17x upgrade since last time.
For sure. That's all Ace behind the scenes, man. I can't take any credit for that.
All right, guys. This is like a section of our workshop. And just so you guys know, I just want to make sure you guys know how we, oh, shoot, what did I just do?
Looks like
So, just so you guys know what we look like in our our real estate company, we have a pretty lean team doing a lot of revenue. So we only have 2 closers. And a lot of times people come into our events and they'll have like 2-3 closers doing like less than 5 deals a month. And it's mind blowing to me. A closer should be doing at least a minimum of 5 deals a month or they aren't going to work here. And so a lot of times when I hear someone has a salesperson not performing at that level, it's typically, after I ask some questions, it's goes all the way back to like, how did you even put them in the seat? How did you onboard them? How do you train them every day? How do you track their metrics? How do you hold them accountable, etc.? So we have a pretty lean team right now. Real quick, I mean, you guys can unmute yourself and shout it out, but like at the end of the day, how do we attract top talent? Just shout them out.
You brand yourself?
Social media. Or Upwork.
How else? We attract top talent through things like growth, culture, benefits, pay structure, leadership, etc. Right? And so like we have to be putting this kind of stuff out there if we want to keep talent. Okay. One of the big mistakes we see in building an acquisitions team or sales team is that a lot of people have this mindset of, well, a few different things. Let's talk about W-2 versus 1099. How many of you guys have salespeople right now? Do a lot of you guys already have salespeople?
looks like a handful do, Tiff. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's comment in the chat if you guys
I don't
have.
know how to look at the chat. How do I look at the chat while I'm speaking? Hold on.
All right. So put in the chat if you guys already have salespeople. Ryan says yes. Brian said yes. Taylor said yes. Ron Myers said yes. Perfect. Are they W-2s, contractors?
How do I share my screen and see it? Oh, right there. But how do I?
1099.
Like if I go over here, how am I going to see the chat?
I feel like most of them have 1099s. Most of them have like contractors.
I don't know how to see the chat while I'm sharing my screen. Just a heads up. So you guys, Josh or someone might have to.
Yeah,
like,
most are 1099.
Okay. So, all right, let's talk through that. Do you guys see my thing right now?
Yes.
All right. So a lot of times people choose 1099 and just let me guess for you because I can't see the chat. The reason why you're doing it is for a couple of reasons. One, you think that, oh, I want to hire someone that's hungry and commission only and they got to go after all this stuff, whatever. Or you think, oh, payroll's expensive, so you don't make them W-2. But I think we can all agree, and let me know and someone can read the chat to me, but do you guys want someone that's bought into you long term?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So then why are we asking them to be their own boss? That's something you guys can answer. I actually am curious. Like, why do we think that they're going to be with you long term if you're asking them to be your own boss?
Yeah, that's true.
I have an opinion on that. I like to hire people that are kind of entrepreneurially minded, just to help kind of bring new ideas and kind of grow the business. At least for me. Yeah.
Why do you think they have to be an entrepreneur to bring new ideas?
I don't think they have to be an entrepreneur, but just that having that mindset kind of helps. And if they can manage their own time, it kind of helps me understand they're more motivated. But yeah, buy-in is huge. So I'm kind of open to hearing what you're saying.
Ron said because he's been a contractor himself a lot and he gets paid as a contractor and he does really good job as it. So relates it to himself.
Okay. And
Mhm.
go ahead.
I would also say because they are a sales commission mostly, and whatever it is that they kill, they eat. So that's why a lot of people hire essentially contractors.
Okay. So tell me, like, what kind, do you want someone with, like, I'm just curious, they, like, do you guys want people that want to have a career with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Career doesn't equal entrepreneurial thinking, right? Per se. Like, I shouldn't say that. You know, when I was in my career, I was like, from a cognitive perspective, I would consider myself fairly intelligent. So I could be innovative. I could be entrepreneurial, but within the company. And a lot of times people are like, eat what you kill. I want you to be entrepreneurial. And then they get confused why they leave you. And it's like, well, yeah, you asked them to be their own boss. You asked them to think like a boss, have their own culture, their own core values, pay their taxes like a boss, but then you don't want them to be a boss. That makes no sense. And then when we talk about legally, let's talk about the legal side of it, right? If you are a 1099, you technically can't hold them accountable to a result. You can't train them. You can't set their hours. You can't technically give them equipment. You can't tell them when to work. But my guess is, in order to get the best performance for your company, you should probably set the right hours, set clear expectations, have one-on-ones, train them every day, manage them by the data, track scorecards to get the most out of it, no matter what the industry is, right? Like, do you guys agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the next objection is normally like, well, W-2 is expensive. I don't know what's more expensive to you. Hiring a 1099, they're out the door in 6 months, and then I got to recruit the next person. All that time lost, deals lost,
Wasted marketing dollars.
Marketing dollars, everything, right? So it becomes like this rat race. And the eat what you kill is not really a thing like it used to be years back, because today inflation is so fucking high that people, especially people with families, but even the young ones, it's like they aren't going to perform for you if they're coming into work and they don't even know if they're going to make their basic rent payment.
Mm-hmm. Tiff, I got
Okay.
two things to add to that too, if you don't mind me chiming in. One is just the talent pool, which I'd like you to talk about here in a second, but you can also absolutely pay someone 100% commission who's also a W-2. So there's ways to structure it that way as well. So don't let that, if they're commission only mindset of they've got to be 1099 to do that, you can structure it in other ways.
Yeah. And so, guys, I used to have this mindset too. So for like the first several years, my sales team was 1099 and I learned lots of lessons. But at the end of the day, for me anyways, I wanted to find some people that wanted a career with me, that they wanted to move up in title and pay, that they wanted to be somewhere long-term, that they value stability. And being a 1099 commission only is like a hunt. And today with inflation and groceries and rent, what I highly recommend is that, one, you want to be able to performance manage them. You can only do that legally if they are an employee. If you're doing it as 1099, just be ready. You might get sued. And then two, I want to manage their hours. I want to manage their performance. I want to manage them based on numbers, and you can't legally do that if they're 1099. So the talent pool, right? There's like a funnel. And if I pay commission only 1099, there's only like a select very few percentage that'll even apply for the role. If you do like a base, like a small base plus commission, even if it's 1099, you still might get you might widen that. But if you offer health insurance, a small base and commission, your talent pool is significantly bigger at that point. And a lot of times people will say, well, health insurance is expensive. Do you guys feel that way?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how much do you think it is? Just let me know in the chat. I have the chat up finally. How much do you guys think paying for your employees' health insurance is?
Maybe
No idea.
at least $500 a month per employee.
Have you guys ever gotten it quoted? Like officially gone to a broker and gotten it quoted?
Nope.
Okay, so we're just gut guessing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pointing that out because you're making an assumption that we haven't necessarily done the due diligence to know the actual answer, and then it holds us back from having the operation that we want to have. And it's just a knowledge gap, right? Because I remember years ago, there was so much good talent out there that would not work for us because of health insurance. And my father, who's owned several companies, is like, why are you so afraid of health insurance? And I'm like, because it's expensive. He's like, well, how much do you think it is? And he's like, well, you haven't even done the fucking job of finding out how much is it. It's all in your head. Right. And so when we first figured this out, we went out and got this quoted with 3 brokers. And by state law, you only have to pay for employee only, not family. And you have to pay 50%. So you can get plans, guys, like you can pay probably $150 to $250 a month for employee only for decent insurance. Like we pay $200 and something a month and we have really good insurance. And I think we can all agree that if someone is selling 50 to 100,000 plus a month for you, is it worth providing health insurance at a couple $100 a month? I think the answer is yes. Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it work with international employees too, or is that mainly for?
So with international, you can pay for their health, and by the way, their health insurance is super cheap. There's like I forget what it's called, but most of your international people will actually know the company and say, hey, I would like to provide you health benefits. And there's like companies you can go buy their health benefits for them.
Okay.
So I just really encourage you guys. And in the US, you can do what they call vesting. So like you can have the employee vest for like up to a year, I think it is. So we have ours started our company and vest for 60 days. So day 61 is when they become eligible for health insurance. So by then, guys, when you see our 30, 60, 90 day expectations, when they start at the company, they're already bringing me a return on investment by day 60 anyways. And if they're not going to be working for us. So there is no like risk. Plus it's a couple $100. So like if we're not willing to risk a couple $100 to bring in top talent that's attracted to that, then we really need to like reconsider what we're doing here. Now, like for VAs overseas, the health insurance is like crazy cheap. Okay. I'm going to have Josh start this, but when we talk about acquisition, sales in general, like culture is going to be the number one thing that drives their performance, especially with like phone sales. And if you're in our industry, like you're not selling Ferraris, you're selling to people that are going through divorce, debt, hardship, etc. So without culture, right? Like they're not going to stick around because it can be depressing to have conversations, especially if you're not in an office environment. So like we're physically in an office and we also have VAs as well. So we do lots of different things to create culture, but ultimately like they aren't going to stick around if they're getting bitched out by people all day and we're not creating this environment of energy and winning. So Josh, do you want to go over this?
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to building culture, first we have to understand that we as leaders, it's our job to create an environment that is conducive for growth. So when you look at leadership and management, these are two words that are interchanged, I think, far too often. There's a clear difference. A leader is focused on growing someone, growing their skill sets, growing their capacity, growing their mindset. Whereas a manager focuses on the inputs, the duplication of dials, the duplication of appointments and offers and contracts. They know that if I put these inputs into the system, I get this result out of it. And they focus on managing these inputs to get that predictable output. So as a leader, not a manager, as a leader, in order to drive the team to grow and individuals to grow, we've got to create an environment that is conducive for that kind of growth. And that culture is going to lead to behaviors, right? So when we create this environment, we are either doing it intentionally or unintentionally, and we don't want to do it unintentionally. It should be very intentional. But that culture is going to create and drive behaviors, and those behaviors are going to create and drive the results or lack of results. So think of this. If it's okay and I allow people to come into the office 2, 3, 5 minutes late, and it's like, oh, it's okay. You're here now. Let's go ahead. Let's get on the phones. Now I'm creating this belief that the details don't matter. And because the details don't matter, when we make an offer and we don't handle the objection the right way after they say, I want to think about it or whatever their objection is, if we don't follow the process and we lose that opportunity, it's because we set the standard that it's okay to be late. Therefore, the details don't matter. Because the details don't matter, it doesn't matter when I'm on the phone with the seller. And then when that happens, I now lose the opportunity. So how do we go about creating the culture intentionally in a way that's going to move the needle towards the result that we want? So Tiff, if you go to the next slide here, first and foremost, 2 components. First, it's core values. So you have to clearly identify your core values. Now, then you also want to make sure that you have the culture theme and standards. So our theme is be a champion. So now we have to go through and say, what are the standards? What are the things? What exactly does it mean to be a champion? Well, first and foremost, we believe as a champion that winning is a habit. We've got to have winning habits outside of the office, right? When we are, I've seen when I was in my career right out of college, when I was consistently learning something new every day, I was focused on developing my skill sets. When I was taking care of my body, I was in the gym. I was focused on being the best version of me. When I showed up to work, I won at work. Now, as an entrepreneur, same thing. When I was winning outside of the business in my personal life and developing myself, I would show up in the business and we were winning in the business, right? So I've seen and lived and fully believe that winning is a habit. Second, focus on being 1% better every day. Now, we all have these goals that we want to achieve, and you should be goal-oriented, and you should be striving for something, but you don't have to wake up tomorrow and be a completely different person. So all we have to do is focus on waking up today and being just 1% better, a small fraction better than the individual that we were yesterday. And if we wake up every single day over the next 365 days, over the next year, we will wake up and be 37 times better just in 1 year, focusing on being 1% better every day than the person we were the day before. Imagine that compound effect over 2 years, 5 years, or even 10 years, right? We want to wake up today with the idea of we're pursuing being the best version of ourselves. Then we have E plus R equals O. E stands for an event. There are events that are going to happen. You might make mistakes. In fact, it's human nature to make mistakes when we're on the phone with a seller. And if you miss an opportunity because of a mistake that you made, now we move on to R, which is the response, right? I want to manage my response, which is then going to dictate the O, which is the outcome. If I lose an opportunity and I have a negative response and I'm pouting and I'm moping and it affects my next phone call and I lose another opportunity, then that's a negative outcome. But if I have the response of, you know what, I messed up, I'm going to go to the sales manager, let's review this call, let's get coached up, I'm going to make sure I don't miss an opportunity like that again. That's a positive response that's going to lead to a positive outcome. So we want to make sure we're managing our R factors, what we call that. Then we want to pursue everything with excellence, pursue everything with 11 out of 10 effort. If we win the game, right? For example, if we land a deal and there were areas in the sales process that we missed, cool, high five, good job, you got the deal, but we still have room to improve. We've got to strive for excellence because in the future, missing that one thing is going to cost us. So we got to pursue perfection. And 11 out of 10 is the standard. Red line, I'll let Tiff talk about that here in a moment. But then the last thing here is no BCD. BCD stands for no blaming, no complaining, no defending. Take extreme ownership for your results or the lack of results. Okay, we don't want to blame other people. We don't want to blame the leads. We don't want to complain about the market. We don't want to defend why we did this or why we did that. We want to focus on being a winner and being a champion. So Tiff, do you want to talk about the red line?
I have a question though.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So how did you guys come up with this core values? I feel like a lot of people, they just come up with like, they come up with like very regular words or not even a sentence. They'd be like core value, respect, core value, love, things like that, which is okay, I guess. But how do you guys actually come up with legendary, actual, meaningful, intentional core values?
So let me go over that in a minute, but these aren't our core values. These are what we call themes and mantras. So these are like when we're in the interview process, we're going over this. So we want to make sure that the person across the table, like they jive with this because not everyone will, right? And so we are athletes. So like, this is who we are. Now, if someone maybe didn't come from an athletic background or whatever, they might not like resonate with this, and that's okay. We're just not a fit for each other. But like, this is the standard we operate by. So our core values and our themes. So the red line, let me go over that real quick. So when you come to our office, if you guys have ever heard of Urban Meyer, championship winning coach, he wrote a book called Above the Line. And what he did was on the football field, he painted a red line and he said, hey, there's a time and a place for like, look, we all have like family drama, friend drama, sickness, all this stuff going on. But when you cross the red line onto practice or a game, like leave your shit at the door. So at our office, we have red tape over the door, and we explain that in the interview, and it's like lived by in our culture. So for example, it was funny not long ago, like Coach Steve, who's one of our coaches of our students, it happened to be one of those days where like all of his students weren't taking action and he was getting pissed off, and he stands up and he's like, I'm going to cross the red line because I got a shitty attitude right now. Okay. So like he knows, like that's our mantra. He caught himself. He went out in the hall, walks back in, and he like lived it by example. Like if you're on the sales floor and let's just say Brandon on my team's girlfriend broke up with him last night or something, and he comes in moping and all this bullshit, you're going to see someone on my team tap him on the shoulder and be like, dude, red line, go cross it. And when you decide to get your shit together, come back in. Now, if we didn't set that as a theme and a standard in the interview process and everywhere in our operation, Brandon would be like, fuck you. Right? He'd be defensive because he'd be like, what do you mean? Don't tell me what to do. But because it's a standard and a theme, he's like, shit, you're right. Like I agreed and committed to living by these themes. So he'll go cross the red line. Right? So like, because we set the standard, right? A lot of people think, and we'll get to core values next, but a lot of people think, oh, core values are like this fluffy bullshit you put on a wall. No, they're the standard in which you operate in. So, before we get into core values, Josh, go over this real quick, and then we'll jump into how we understand the core values.
Yeah. So a lot of people always ask us when I'm hiring people, like, what behavioral profile am I looking for? And I think in certain roles, it makes sense to look for specific behavioral profiles. You don't want to have a project manager who doesn't pay attention to detail, right? So the thing, though, is we're not looking for like one specific profile. And I'm going to talk on acquisitions because that's the main topic of this conversation. But in acquisitions, you know, back in, I think it was 2021, I had our entire acquisitions team take the predictive index behavioral assessment. And my goal was to stand in front of everyone in the industry and say, this is the exact profile that you have to go hire in order to have a high performing team. So of all the people that took the assessment, not a single one of them, mind you, I had about 8 or 9 people take the assessment. Not a single one of them shared a profile. And it made me take a step back, and I was like, wait a second, what the heck is going on here? And as I was talking to some of my friends and peers in the industry, it became clear to me that when you have a clearly defined, proven sales process, you don't have to go find this rock star of a salesperson to plug them into it in order to get performance on the back end. Instead, because we have this clearly defined sales process, that system, that process allows people's natural given talent to thrive. So what we're looking for now is an ideal team player, not a behavioral assessment. So the ideal team player that we've defined for certain roles are what you see here: a core value fit, first and foremost. If we don't align on core values, it'll never work. Second, are they coachable? If you're coming into the organization and you think that you just know it all and you're not going to live up to our proven sales process, that's going to be a problem. And not only that, think about the culture that creates. If I have Brandon on my team following the sales process, but I have Connor over here who's like, nope, I'm an expert at sales. I've been doing it for 20 years. I'm going to do it my own way. And then Brandon's being held accountable to the sales process, but this guy's not. And so then Brandon's like, hey, why am I getting held accountable when he can just do his own thing, right? It creates an environment that we don't want to be a part of, okay? That's not the culture that we want. Third, we've got to be growth oriented. This kind of ties into being a champion, right? We want someone who's focused on being a champion, who wants to be the best version of themselves. And then they've got to have job-related skills. So in acquisitions, you don't have to have sales experience necessarily. You could be a bartender who's witty, who can communicate clearly, and I can plug you into the sales process and you can perform. In fact, we've had a track record of doing that. We've hired bartenders in the past. So Tiff, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that, or maybe even talking about even the transaction coordination position if you want, or we can move on to this.
No, yeah, let's move on to core values. So obviously we own results-driven coaching. And by the way, guys, I don't know how much you guys know about me and Josh. We own Heels Homes. That's our real estate side. We did over like 200 contracts last year. We've been doing it forever, 1,500 plus houses. And then results driven is we take your experienced investor and help them scale and build out their teams. Because guys, a lot of like newbie programs out there, no matter what industry you're in, they're there to like get you to understand what a contract is, talk to a seller, and do deals. There is a big difference between doing deals and building a business that does consistent deal flow. And the only way you ever have your time back is through leveraging people, systems, and processes. You'll never be able to scale anything without people. Okay. And so a lot of times I get it. I used to be there where we would bring on people, like throw them a script. We'd be pressing go, shadow me. Like you just be going on the fly because you're trying to figure out the company in general. But I promise you, like it ends in a disaster. I know I've had to press reset before. And so I come from corporate space. I spent 10 years traveling all over the country. And I was at one of those companies where you, through core value, I couldn't tell you what their core values were. I didn't even know they had them, to be honest. And we're really big. So we spend about 30 to 45 minutes on a core value exercise in our interview. And then we re-go over core values on day one of employment. And then we cover them literally daily, I feel like, in our operation. So we're constantly, we have like a win wall in our office. We're complimenting people in meetings based on, you know, did they live by something in the core value? But these are the standards. And so, for example, when I come out to when people come to our 2-day workshop, which is now virtual, I'll give you an example. I come out in the very first 30 minutes of the workshop and I'll be like, hey guys, you guys can see the banner. I'm not going to read all these values to you, but I do want to point out a couple. One is respect. So all of you paid money to be in this room. Can we all say yes if you can agree that if you walk in and out of these rooms and the door's making noise or you're chewing food at the thing, like, can we all agree like that's disrespectful to other people that have spent money being here? Yes? Okay. Well, then can I hold you accountable to that? Yes. Okay. Now what happens during the event, it happens every event. People will go out, take business calls. And I'm like, hey, I can't change the trajectory of your business if you're not in the room and you paid me to do that. So do I have the permission to challenge you? Okay, cool. So now when I go up to you in the hall and I say, hey, dude, you told me to change your business. I can't do it if you're not in the room. Or, hey, man, you keep coming out of the room. You'll probably be like, yeah, you're right. You're right. But if I didn't set the standard and it wasn't on the banner, you'd be like, fuck you. You're a bitch. Wouldn't you? Like, I really do. I think that's what you would do. And so because I set the standard and said, this is how we operate when you're in this space, they don't get offended. They're like, shit, you're right. I'm in your space. I asked you to impact me and I'm out here doing this. The other one is like success as you define it. I'm not here to like tell you should do 500,000 a month, 100,000 a month, 50,000 a month. Whatever you want, it's my job to get you there. That's my job. So if someone on my team is trying to convince someone to go after 100,000 a month or whatever, like that's not what we stand for. We are here to let you define your goals and we help you get there. That's our role in this. And we live by that. Okay. So let's go over to Heels Homes. Like this is the Heels Homes one is our internal like company core values. I'm not going to go through all of them, but like I'll go through an exercise with you guys real quick. But like commitment, for example, just because we all have a different perception of what commitment means, right? And so in the interview process, I'm going to explain these in detail and say the version of good and the version of bad, and you either jive with it or you don't, right? So in commitment, it's like, hey, if you put something on my calendar for 10 a.m. and you show up at 10:05, that's not fucking commitment. It's disrespectful for me. And so like I had an employee once that they were always like, I said I would do it. Like, what does it matter if it's by 5 today or this tomorrow? And it's like, well, that's just not how we operate here. Like set a clear expectation with a timeline and live to your timeline because everyone else works around it. Okay. So what we do in an interview is if we used to way back in the day, be like, oh, what are your top 3 core values and why? And like, they're not idiots. They're going to be like integrity, you know? And so Esteban, do you have core values in your company or who's someone that doesn't have core values right now? I want to do an exercise with you. Is there anyone in here that doesn't have company core values right now?
It's okay. No shame.
Yeah, for real.
This is actually going to help if you're volunteering to go through this exercise. It'll help you.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anyone that wants to go? Or is there someone in here that like you set your core values because you think that's what you're supposed to be?
Yeah, I'll volunteer.
Okay. Let me bring up a Google Drive link real quick.
Tiff, do you want to go through all 3 people or do you want to go through 2 just for time's sake?
I'll just do 2 because we got to get off here in 20 minutes. All right. So what we do in the interview.
Second.
We can only do 1 right now. So, what we're going to do is in the interview, I'll say, hey, I want you to name 3 people. We're not going to do all 3, so we don't have time. And that you know, and they know you, that you look up to. So like if you look up to Michael Jordan, but he doesn't know you, we can't say Michael Jordan. So typically it's like coach, mentor, friend, mom, dad, brother, sister, blah, blah, blah.
Spouse.
Right?
Yeah.
Spouse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. I want you to name the first person.
My father-in-law, Glenn.
Okay. Let's talk through like 5 things of what you look up to in him.
He takes the time, anytime someone needs something, he takes the time to give them his full attention.
Give me an example, like what you mean.
Like anytime you need something and there's an emergency, you call him and ask him questions, and he helps out.
What would you put, Josh? Patient?
I think like selfless service or giving.
Or just present.
Yeah, present.
Okay.
There we go. His word.
Okay. What else?
I don't know. It's interesting to think about, like why you look up to someone. Incredible businessman.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Do you
What
admire
makes
this?
someone a man that you look up to?
He's out of the box thinker. He's very creative. Yeah, definitely problem solver. Yeah.
So let me ask you, like, when you say that, do you have employees right now or no?
I do. I have 6.
Okay.
Well, but they're all 1099. So
Okay.
technically.
So let me ask you, like, do you get upset when someone comes to you with a problem, but they don't come with any level of like solutions?
I'm a pretty patient person too. So I hate doing things twice. So I have a hard time with that, where I'm like, haven't we already talked about this? Like, there should be a solution. So yes, I can see that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Tiff, remember he also mentioned earlier in the conversation today that he looks for entrepreneurial type people, which I think leans into that exact thing that you just wrote down.
I think, guys, sometimes we confuse like entrepreneurial with like problem solver, creative, intelligence, all that. That's not the case. I don't want to get into that right now, but just keep that in mind. But let's go on to the next thing. What else do you look up to him for?
His faith. Like, he has a really strong faith in God.
Boom.
I resonate with that one. Boom. All right. What else? One more thing. He doesn't take life too seriously. Like, even if he's got a serious problem to solve in front of him, like sometimes he'll just like, hey, come here, watch this super funny YouTube video, and I'm like, we don't have time for that. Like, but I don't know. He's fun. Yeah. How would I put that, Josh?
Ace, what are your thoughts on how you describe that? Hold on. Thinking. But it's the purity, it's like, yeah, it's like finding the fun in any given situation, like knowing that even though you might be going through a hardship, there's still something good, maybe an optimistic outlook. There's still something good to find to make it enjoyable or worthy.
Yeah.
Cool. I put optimistic, lighthearted, fun in all situations, doesn't put too much pressure on daily life.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go to the next person.
Tony Robbins right now. Yeah.
But does Tony know you?
No.
Okay, so we need someone that knows you too.
Oh, gosh. Probably Jack Bosch. He's a huge land coach.
Yep. I know Jack. What do you look up to him for?
He's just super he's very driven. Yeah, he's like, if there's he's loves to figure things out in a big way. Like we did a entitlement project together, and he was just all in, even though he didn't know the ins and outs of it. And he resourceful. Yeah. Super willing to learn and just figure it out. Yeah.
Sounds like a problem solver too. I mean, that if you can
Yeah.
do resourceful / problem solver.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
All right.
He shares. He's very giving with his knowledge and open to, yeah.
Okay.
He's a very strong family man. Family first in everything he does. Like, he's in the middle of a webinar, he'll still take a call if his daughter calls.
Do you have kids?
I do have 3 kids. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And he's really smart. Yeah, if he doesn't have the information, he'll get it, but he's super smart, and he's very flexible, like rolls with the punches.
Okay. So since we only have so much time, do
Yeah.
you guys see common trends?
Oh yeah.
Giving, selfless, problem solver, family, faith, like these pretty much kind of go hand in hand. And so when I'm in an interview, I take about 30 minutes to go through this, and I ask a lot more questions through every bullet. So I'll be like, oh, tell me more, explain that, like give me an example, because I want to deeply understand you as a person. So I do this before we go over our core values. And the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want you to be like, oh, integrity because of this and that because of this. I want to know you as a human and like what actually makes you tick. And this is how you come up with your actual core values, because my guess, right? I'm a family person. I hope most of my team, right? If they don't tell you this, I'll cry. But I hope they tell you I am a family person through and through. Okay. So I have 2 girls. I don't want to miss their stuff. Like, I want to be there for them. And so, we're called results driven for a reason. Now, there are times, right? Like our 2-day workshop. I don't know what's going on in your life, but you got to be at our 2-day workshop. We're throwing an event. But on the day to day, like all I care about is let's get our damn job done. But if your kid has something at 2 p.m. and you miss it, dude, it's on you, right? Because like you can work at 8 p.m. That's what you sacrifice to go be at your kid's stuff, just like I do. And so I value that in turn, not just for myself, but I want my team to live by that. Okay. Another one of our core values, like, is faith. Now, we are faith. We are believers in Jesus Christ and all that, but not everyone shares the same faith. But that also means that, let's say I go to take a property down and I decide to hold it as a rental instead of rehab it and whatever. The team has to have faith that I'm making the best decision on behalf of the company, and there's a bigger picture behind it. If, for example, Ace is behind the camera right now, I don't understand all the ins and outs of paid ads, but I have to have faith that he's doing the best that he can do to drive our costs down, right? Like, there might be gaps and there's things to fix and there's problems to solve, but I have to have faith in my leader that he is doing the best that he can do in that given moment. Does that make sense? Now, when we challenge those things, we're not living by our, now that doesn't mean that I can't go to him and say, hey, I don't think we're doing XYZ right. Let's blah, blah, let's adapt. Let's do that. That's different. But I hired the person for a reason. Like, I have to have faith that he genuinely gives a shit to hit the goals, right? Even if something's not working. And so what we do is we go, after I get to know you. Now, to give you an example, I always give this example because I'll never forget Steven, who works for us. He was in his interview and he went really deep about, he put his like ex-girlfriend or wife, whatever she is, on the thing. And the first thing he said was, I don't actually like her, but he went through all these values and they were all about how the kind of mom she is for his kid. And I was like, damn, that takes a bigger person. You know what I mean? Like, it just like that stood out to me of him as a human. And so I jived with that as an owner. And so I got to know him deeper by doing this exercise instead of just being like, here's our core values and move on. Does that make sense? And what it allows you to do in the interview process is both of you get to know each other and make a decision of like, do we jive with what we value every day? And the last 2 interviews I was personally in where I did this exercise, both individuals cried. They cried and I was like, why are you crying? And they're like, because I've never had an employer care this much about me to like know what I actually value. And so I just really encourage that because guys, sales is a sport. Sales is energy. And so we really want to make sure that if someone's going to be on a floor where like they're getting rejected all the time, that we value the same things. Because the second you create this unified alignment environment, you'll have people for life. Like people have been on our acquisitions team for 5+ years now. That wouldn't happen if they didn't like jive with our core values and our standards in which we operate by. So I wanted to spend some good time on that, even though, and I hope that's okay with you guys, because I can't stress how important this is. Now, if they're virtual, I get this question a lot. How do we do this if we're virtual versus in person? If you were to come out to my office, you'll understand, like, we have music going, energy, joking, all the stuff. So in Slack, if I go to like team sales, you know, every time you get a sale, they're saying, you know, whatever. And look at the whole team's pumping them up, right? And then we'll do like spiffs or contest and we'll pair people up and we'll call them like team tiger, team panda, team whatever. And then we're just like doing whatever it takes to create this celebratory environment. And don't get me wrong, we're called results driven for a reason. Like we want to hold people accountable to a result in a standard. But I will testify on behalf of our entire leadership team that if for any reason you aren't performing, we are doing everything we can to make you successful. And if it doesn't work out, it was likely an employee gap. Like they just didn't take the action because we pour into them. And so anyways, I think it's really important for you guys to see that because you need to create that environment for people to just like give a shit, thrive, and not waste, you know, your marketing leads.
Tiff, real quick, with about 10 minutes, I don't know if you want to just show a glimpse of the interview process, because everything we're talking about right now is finding the right people and putting them in the right seats. I also want to touch on the onboarding components and then kind of like the ongoing training and development from there.
Yep. So I'll breeze through this since we don't have a ton of time. We do a phone interview first. Why do we do that? Because it weeds out, I think, here's some of the questions, but it's like, what is your expectations? Summary of benefits. Here's the hours of the operation. Here's the physical requirements. Like, is this even remotely what you're looking for before I put you in front of and spend the owner's time or the leader's time with you, etc. From there, we then go to a second Zoom interview, potentially. It's not always, but this one is like a 10-minute meet and greet. And the reason why we'd start doing this was because the phone interview might get them good enough to get in front of us, but then this recruiting firm was like putting bullshit in front of us. And we would bring them into our office. We're like, shit, now we're stuck with this person for 60 to 90 minutes. And we didn't want to waste our time like that. So the Zoom interview is like a, hey, I'm Tiffany. I'm your direct report. Potentially, I just want to ask you a couple questions. And then it's really like, what are you looking for? Oh, tell me a little bit about you, type that. Because I think we can all agree in 5 minutes, you're going to know if that person personality wise even like jives with you at all to even continue to want to work like in another interview. So then we go into a in-person interview, and this one is most important. So we do what we call a surprise working interview. And we didn't have time to go through all the details, but we want to make sure, guys, that we're like, this is a sales process. We want the talent. So if we want someone that wants a career, we got to show them a career path. We got to show them pay structure where they can get incentivized, how they grow, because people want growth. That's the type of person we want to attract. So in this, we show them, we either write this on the whiteboard or if it's a PowerPoint, we show them that if it's virtual. And what I want you to notice is like, it goes up. right? Because we want them to think up. I can grow up physically. So I'll explain, hey, a lot of times we start as a fault specialist. We have a base plus commission. Here's how you get promoted into a senior fault specialist. And then depending on the skill set, you can either grow up to the left, or if you want to be a closer, we can grow up to a closer. They're both just as valuable, but they have different skill sets. And then we walk through all of that. And then we talk through the different pay structures. And the reason we do this is because we want them to be like, oh, I can grow here, even though it's not a huge company. If I do XYZ, I can grow in salary, I can grow in commission, I can grow in title.
Skills.
It doesn't matter if you're small, right? Then I go, and one of the big mistakes we made in the past was we would explain pay structure, but I don't think we did it as detailed as we do now. And when you're talking about pay, I think we can all agree, like the second someone even questions their pay when they start, they're out the door. So we give the big picture, and then I don't have time today, but like we go through the detail of examples of like, here's the example of we took this down as a rental. Here are the numbers. This is what you got paid, why you got paid it, etc. So that it's like black and white. But we say, hey, if you come in as a fault specialist, there's like, a 6-month time period to build your queue. Once you build your queue, if you're not making 48 grand a year, like you just aren't performing, you won't have a job anyways. An average person's 50 to 60, high performing 80. And then we explain the behaviors of a high performer. So for example, with a closer, after you build your queue, if you're not making 78 grand a year, you just won't have a job in general. Now, let me tell you, we've had people make 200, 250, 300, but guess what? They worked 7 days a week, like 12 hours a day because they were money hungry. They took calls within seconds of them coming in. They took calls at 10 p.m. at night. So if you're like, hey, I want to make money, but like I'm not willing to work 7 days a week, whatever, then don't plan on this high performing. You're probably going to be between average and high performing as long as you have a great skill set. And I want to set realistic expectations because I don't want them to come in and be out the door because they thought they're going to make 150 grand coming in from 9 to 5. Like that's just not going to work with us. Okay. And that's fine. You want to weed them out. You want to set realistic expectations. Then we go through our, I don't have time again to go through all of it, but we have base salaries, individual commissions, and if you're a closer only, we have quarterly bonuses, and there's a tier structure to it. So we walk through, hey, we have, and the reason why fault specialists don't get the quarterly bonus is because they really do clock in and clock out. So if they want to make more money, yes, they can work more hours, but like the closer, we have an expectation and they sign that they are responsible that if a seller says you want to close 10 p.m. Saturday, your ass is closing 10 p.m. Saturday. So it comes with more responsibility. And because of that, we give them a tier structure. So if in quarter one, this is outdated in numbers, but like, let's say they hit $250,000 in closed profit in quarter one. Well, then they hit tier 2. So they get an additional 2% back to $1. Then we have I'm not going to go over all this. I don't have time. But then we have a team bonus. Why do we do this? Because a long time ago, we had a mentor that like believed in shark eat shark environments, and he's a jackass, and it created a toxic environment. And so I all of a sudden had this sales floor, and they were like hiding leads, stealing shit, like all this stuff because they were competing with each other. And there is a level of healthy competition, but for the company's behalf, we want them working together, not against each other. So as a closer, they have, by the way, how you should, in my opinion, set your base. Go to your local like Best Buy or Target or something and say, hey, what does your entry level sales associate make per hour? Match it. And every market's going to be different, because then you have this big, wide open funnel of people that are willing, they don't want to work till 10 p.m. in weekends. They want to make more than their base. And so if you can match that and give them work-life balance, and give them commission and it changes their life, they'll be loyal forever. So there's like a big pool of retail people that are trained in these really good structured sales environments in corporate, and now you can bring them in and change their life. But the team bonus is not huge. We do 6-month bonuses. It's different and results driven because like when I sell you a ticket to a workshop, we transact that day. So it's very different. We can do it by the month, whatever. But in real estate, like they can't control if this seller closes in 30 days or 6 months. So we do January 1 through June 30th and July 1 through the end of the year. And ultimately, the reason why we do that is we make it where all their minimum standards, we add those up plus one deal. And that is what the team has to hit as a company. And then they all get bonus the exact same. So let's just say it's a $4,000 bonus or a $3,000 bonus. Now, when Brandon comes in, if his girlfriend breaks up with him and he's in a shitty mood, the team now can be like, dude, cross the red line. And by the way, you're impacting the whole team's pay when you do this. So like show up for the team, right? So now they're like collaborating. They know that it's impacting the man to the left and to the right. And so they're not going to be selfishly thinking, right? So it builds culture. And the other thing, guys, it allows you to build your pipeline of talent, because if somebody is going to quit, which is human nature, people are going to leave your company, you will likely have a feel for that person, but they're likely going to stay until that bonus gets paid and leave right after it. Because we make them sign an HR document that says you have to be employed at the company in order to receive this, no matter if you're fired or quit. Which means I got to feel 30 days out, like this person seems whatever, unhappy or disgruntled or not perform, whatever. So I know like, probably there's a chance. So I'm going to start recruiting now, so I'm not caught off guard right after that bonus. Right. And then
quick question on that.
Do
Do you guys have an internal HR that helps with all of that, or do you guys have like external HR and payroll? Like, is that all?
So we do it internal now, but we're big enough. Before, like ADP or Gusto, which those two are the ones I'd recommend. They are used to taking mom pop shops and turning them into like W-2 or whatever. And so they'll do everything for you. And then they have an HR arm that helps small businesses, and you pay like a stupid low fee. It's like a joke.
Cool.
But they make sure your paperwork's in line, all that. And I can always come back on for Esteban and like go over all that in detail. But ultimately, Gusto or ADP, if you just Google them, like just drill them with a bunch of questions and go to your chat bot and just say, I'm thinking about going from 1099 operation to W-2. What are the questions I should ask Gusto? Okay.
Cool.
Then in the working interview, we say, hey, we'd like to do a 30-minute working interview. Is that cool with you? You're going to know real quick if they should be a salesperson, because they're going to be like, yeah, let's go. Or they're going to be shaking and having a panic attack, and you're going to be like, yeah, I don't need you. Like, I need someone that's like ready to get it. So I tell them, hey, I'm not judging your performance. Like you're never going to know the script by now. But what I'm going to do is give you our follow-up specialist script, read it out loud a few times. We'll role play. And then ultimately, I'm going to come back in the room. My goal is I get you on the phone with 3 sellers. Why do I want you to get on the phone with 3 sellers? Because one, I just want to make sure that you put yourself in the shoes of the job and tell yourself if you're going to like it or not. I also want you to meet the team, and I want to give you feedback as you are on the phones, and just, I want to give you a test run. I wouldn't want you to accept the job without a test run. So we go out there, we put them on like old discoveries or old leads. And then our goal is we give them feedback and coach them on every call, and we verify it. Are they coachable? How do they take the feedback? Do they execute it by the next call? Because I need to know, are they coachable? And I also am paying attention to like, how do they type and talk? How do they maneuver the CRM as I'm walking them through it? Right? Because I've hired people that are older and like they can't really type, and it slows down a salesperson. So we have to pay attention to all of these things. Now, we've had a guy go on the floor that supposedly had 8 years of phone sales experience, and he had a fucking panic attack. He was sweating and like literally couldn't function. So I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did this working interview. Now I've had people that were really shy in the interview that I'm like, yeah, that's probably going to work. Our office is like high energy, whatever. But then they get on the phone and they're fucking amazing. But we wouldn't know this without the working interview. So we do this live at the interview, whether it's virtual or in person. Then after, let's say that we're like, yep, we want to hire this person. We do what we call a team meetup interview. This is where like we grab coffee or meet, whatever, grab a drink, whatever it is. Everyone's environment's different. The reason why we do this is because I say, hey, our culture is my number one priority. And before you accept this role, I just want to make sure you like me and I like you. How about we grab some coffee? And that is where it's like, oh, did you play sports growing up? Blah, blah, blah. We just want to know, like, is there any red flags? And you got to be careful in an HR front. But I'll give you an example. This girl was very talented, like couldn't have asked for a better skill set. We go out to the team meetup happy hour. She proceeds to tell me how she's on like 500 depression pills. She's an alcoholic. Her boyfriend's abusive, all this stuff. And I was like, oh shit, I had this gut feeling like this is probably not going to go well. Well, my dumbass still hired her because I felt desperate for the skill set. Well, every day she came in hungover, bitching, traumatized. 6 months later, she walks out of the office. We didn't even know why for a few weeks. And it was because I heard that she found out she was pregnant unexpectedly. So like, if you would have asked me in the interview, like I knew the gut told me not to move forward. And so I should have listened to my own process. Right. And then there's all these documents like day one of employment. We want to re-go over core value, sign our stuff, meet the team, give them equipment, teach them how to use it. And too many people are like not even organized when someone starts. And it's like going on a first date, right? Someone shows up and like, you don't have them gear. You don't have expectations for them. And you're like, here's a script, let's go. And like, that's not how you want to onboard them. I'm not going to go through all this. Josh, do you want to go through this in onboarding?
Yeah, let's not talk about expectations. I don't think we have time. I'd rather go over onboarding.
Yeah, so guys, when they start on day one and in the interview, by the way, in the interview, before they accept the job, we say, here is your first 30, 60, 90-day expectations. And if you don't hit them, you won't be working here, basically. Because I want them to accept this job, thoroughly understanding our culture, our standards, our expectations, how we operate, and what we expect and by when, before you even accept the role.
So normally here we would demonstrate what this looks like, but I'm just going to talk through it. Guys, if you're taking notes, make sure that you're able to write these down. Here are some of the components of our onboarding. On day one, like Tiff mentioned, we've got to make sure that all logins, all tools are set up. CRM login, email login, phone systems, all those things are ready to rock and roll. Every script or every document that they need to have is printed out right in front of them. Now, as far as teaching them what they are going to go do and exactly how to do it, everything for us starts with our ideal customer profile. When we know our avatar and the challenges that they face and how to solve those challenges, that's when we can add a ton of value. And that's what helps us negotiate deep discounts, which is what we want as cash buyers in the real estate investing space. So
real quick. We don't have time to go over all the details of the onboarding. What I want you to big picture see is that we don't just hand them a script. There is a full week of just literally, these are all videos. Okay. Day one, day 2, day 3, day 4. These are videos. And at the end of each section, you see assessment. There's an assessment that they take a quiz and we need to find out, did they retain the information or not? Because if not, I need to put them back through this section. Because the last thing I want is someone getting on the phones and blowing my $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 leads like that I could be getting a deal on. And in addition, again, right, we set expectations. We then go over the onboarding over the next 2 weeks. Hey, this is what you can expect the first 2 weeks of working with us by the day and what we expect for you to retain in the onboarding. And then we give them all these videos, quizzes, assessments, train them. And then we do what we call hands-on coaching for the first couple of weeks because they are on the phones, right? And we've only had one person in 10 years not get 5 to 7 contracts in the first 30 days on the phone. So when you onboard them properly, you attract them with the right standards, core values, and pay structures, you should have a high performer from the start. And too many people are like, at our events are like, oh, they're only on month 2 or 3 though. And so like, it's great that they got a couple deals. And it's like, well, clearly we didn't onboard or train them or manage them right because that's not performance. And in addition, on our end, this is just getting them in the seat. It is our job to train them daily. It is our job to make them fill out a scorecard every day and manage them by the KPIs. It's our job to watch their film and do call audits every single week. If we are not doing these things, we can't expect to attract the Michael Jordan if we're not going to coach them like Michael Jordan's coach would do. So for example, I always give this example of Michael Jordan. He's in the guy's the elite player playing the game 20, 30 years. Let's just say it's game 3 of the playoffs. They lose by 2. What's the coach not going to do? Like what happens with a lot of investors is they'll be like, oh, I need more leads. I need this. I need that. No. When that game's done, the coach is going to go over to the stat book and they're going to be like, what were the stats? First, I'm going to look at the KPIs. The stat said that Jordan is normally a 90% free throw shooter. He happened to be at 70% this game. So what he's not going to do is he's not going to go put in a new play, a new fancy fucking defense, all this stuff. So they're going to say, okay, something happened with his free throws. And if he would have just made his free throw average, we would have won this game. So now they know what film to go watch because the KPI said the free throw was off. So they go fast forward to all of his free throws and they find out, is his elbow out? Is his legs, misaligned? Okay, cool. They find out his elbow is off to the right. So now they diagnose elbow's the problem. They watch the film with him. They pause, they play. He gets to visually see it. So then they create a training plan and they say, okay, we're going to tape your elbow. We're going to shoot 500 free throws. Here's what we're going to go do before the next game. So then they execute that coaching and they bring the stat back to alignment in order to win the next game, because if that one playing factor would have been there, they would have won. So what happens is when you're managing a closer is people think this closer sucks, the marketing sucks, the market sucks. No. The stat, right? The scorecard said that there's, 8 different metrics you're tracking on your closer. So for example, if the closer used to be one of every 2 offers, but they're one of 6 right now, my scorecard says, hey, it's not the front end of the process. It's not the lead. It's not the market. It's something's happening on the offer call. So what do? We go to the CRM, we pull all the offer calls the last 2 weeks where they didn't get accepted. We do film, we audit the film and we say, okay, we just found out that every person that didn't get the deal all had the same objection. She's having an issue with overcoming the price objection. Cool. Now we know what we got to go fix. We create a training program over the next 7 days. We set clear expectations. We execute it. She went right back from 1 of 6 to 1 of 2. But what we didn't do is go blame the marketing channel, double down on something stupid, or fire the person. We found the actual problem. And what happens is it's one thing to get the person in the seat, then onboard them properly, but then it's our job to lead them to success. They don't just show up and perform, right? And Michael Jordan wouldn't be the player he is today if he only practiced once a week. He practiced every day. So it's our job as the leader to train them every day, because sales is a sport. Even the elite of the elite, if they only practice once a week and they show up to the playoff game, it's human nature. They're going to fall off the process. That's normal. So we have to keep their fundamentals. Like Jordan's shooting free throws every day, layups every day, the fundamentals. There's 4 to 5 fundamentals in the acquisitions process that we got to train every week to keep it fresh, to keep it repetitive without thinking. And then it's our job to watch the film, do the one-on-ones, and manage them by the numbers. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. I tried to say that as fast as I humanly possibly could.
I love that. And if you guys had more time, we would 100% like if you guys have more time, we can keep going. But I mean, we have also some time here. I love that you guys move everything to sports and athletes and the high performing teams. I would have done it with the soccer.
Hey, Tiff, I have to jump off here. I'm really sorry. I'm 10 minutes late to a meeting I have. So
Okay, no problem.
Huge shout out to Josh, please, everyone. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'll stay on for a few if you guys want to chat.
Yeah. So I just love how you guys are relating everything to high performing sports team. I'm assuming it came from Josh because he's an athlete, right?
I would beat Josh's ass all day in basketball.
Sorry, wrong question.
You can tell. Yeah.
Okay, but I love that. So you put this together, and I'm actually curious. Did you also do the same thing for the rest of the team? Like apply the same principles for the rest of the team?
What do you mean by that? Like for operational roles and whatnot?
Operational, dispo, you name it.
Yep. So dispo is in our daily sales training. With our TC, we do a daily huddle every day. And we have like a whole agenda and structure to every meeting in the company. So like there is never a meeting that doesn't have like a preset agenda structure to keep us aligned.
Nice. So, okay, quick fact, fun fact. You did basketball?
Yeah.
No way. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
what level do you play?
Huh?
What level do you play?
Oh, I went to play Toledo, which is D1, but I tore my ACL my first year, so I decided to be a drunk idiot for the next 4 years after that.
Wow. So you could have been the next Stephanie Curry.
I don't know about that, but
All right. Okay, cool. Guys, what questions you guys have?
I have a question
Mm-hmm.
to Tiffany. So, Tiffany, where do you locate those good closers, good teammates? Do you post on some portal or?
Yep. So a few different ways. One, we leverage social media in the sense of we'll do like funny, trending TikTok style reels that express our culture. We'll post it online. We tag all of our employees and we train them, hey, accept the tag and share it to your audience. We do that because more than likely their friends are just like them. And so over the course of time, they'll be like, your environment looks so fun to work for. Are they hiring? We've gotten like 50% of our people through that combined with our bonus system. So what we do is if you refer someone to us, let's say it's a salesperson, we have a $5,000 bonus. You only get paid the first 1,000 if they hit their 30-day expectation on the phone. So you get paid on day 31. Then if they hit the 90-day expectation, they get the remainder 4,000 on day 91. So that way they're not just like putting butts in seats. We only pay you the bonus if they actually perform. And there are employees that are super incentivized by that. So like we've had people get $10, $15, $20,000 of extra income in a year because they're like, I'll go recruit my friends, you know? So that's a big one. The other one that we do is, a lot of people don't know this, but on Indeed, we call it hunting versus trapping. So instead of waiting for people to apply to us, well, there's a subscription on Indeed that you can outbound. So what it does is I can put in like, Best Buy, by the way, is like a great sales training program. So like it's a really good place to recruit people from. So we put in the word like Best Buy, and then we'll say active in the last 5 days looking for a job. It'll show us all the resumes of someone actively on Indeed where Best Buy is somewhere on the resume. And then with that subscription, I can outbound message them. So it's like I'm hunting and prospecting for the talent. And we've found some of our best talent that way as well, instead of just like waiting for people to apply off your job. So I would say those are the top ways.
Love that.
Thank you so much, Tiffany.
Yep.
We have another person, AG. I don't know how to say your name, brother, but Abram, you got a
You got it
question?
right. Thank you. Yeah. Hi,
Cool.
how's it going?
What's the
Can I
que-
ask a question not necessarily regarding this, regarding wholesaling real estate? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Well, I live in Ohio. I'm in your market. I'm in Cleveland. So I want to know, I'm having two issues, the same issue with closing a deal. Two separate sellers. They have common names. So the title and liens came up.
Yep.
And the title company doesn't want to close on them until they send it to the attorney general to make sure it's not them.
Oh yeah, yeah. You have to do that. Yeah.
But I've done a little research and people have told me that there's ways to do affidavit that they could sign on it. that it's
Here,
not
I'll give
them.
you my title company. Don't ever use that title company again. They sound fucking horrible. right.
So have you got into this issue and you had to wait?
Oh
like
yeah,
8
we run
weeks?
into it on like almost every deal.
So is it only in Ohio or is it like all over America? Someone has a name, John Smith, you can't close the deal with them.
No, it's very common. Like in a lot of the counties or whatever are back behind. So like it delays closings and the title company will explain that to the seller. But Access Title, that's their top agent closer. Or you can Google Access Title, but they work primarily with investors. Dude, they run into this almost on every transaction. They know the process. Let them handle it.
And it still takes 6 to 8 weeks to get closed?
It just depends on how behind the county is, wherever it's at.
Yeah. Do you have a number for them?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Oh,
And then if you could, that's her cell phone. So text her first and just say, hey, Tiffany High referred me to you guys. I have a couple of deals I would like to send your way. and then she'll jump on a call, but you can also Google their office in case for some reason she's off. And it's Access Title in Columbus, Ohio, but they are used to this shit all the time.
Wow, it's crazy because sometimes the seller lets you close and they just put money in escrow, but these two sellers aren't letting us do it, so it's just delaying the whole closing.
Yeah, they'll get it handled. They'll give you what you need to do.
Okay, thank you. Nice meeting you.
Yep.
Last question, Ron.
Hey, David, how you doing? I was just curious. I brought on my first new hire just within the last 48 hours. So from a perspective of getting them acclimated to the CRM, lead generation, things like that, when you first brought on your first couple acquisition specialists, how did you place them as far as the leads to call? How many did you provide to them? Things like that. What was your structure there?
It's a good question. It's more of so by the way, guys, I'm not the head of acquisitions. Josh is. He has he manages that. I think he says that once they're up and going, now it depends on if you have cold call leads, inbound leads, whatever. We're primarily inbound focused.
Or are we?
But we typically never provide them more than 10 new leads a day per closer. I will say, this is just my opinion looking back on the years, because I have 80,000 leads in my system from being in this game long enough. There's no fucking way that my stuff is actually getting followed up properly at this point. And so it's something we've been talking about, because I'm a big believer that I think 10 is too many. It could be arguable based on the motivation. This is a Josh question, but I feel like sometimes when you have too many leads, my team just click dial, whatever. So there's a balance, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but it really depends. So let me show you let me show you something real quick.
Sure. While you're doing that, I came from a similar environment where we were primarily all cold calling, a lot of data, foreclosures, tax deeds, things like that. And there was about 5 of us. And it got to a point where we were overwhelmed with the amount of leads coming in from every code violations. I mean, there must have been 100,000 leads in there, and there's no way for 5 guys to cover that much ground, right? So I'm not anywhere near that yet. I was always heard that the rule of thumb is anywhere from 40 to 60 at a time is what the average acquisition specialist can handle at a given time in total.
Yeah, so I feel like sometimes we look at hitting our goal backwards. So what I would do is focus on the left side. So first, let's just say my goals, this is a quarterly KPI goal setting. Because when I see people at our events, I'm like, well, what's your goal? And they're kind of wishy-washy about it. So this is quarterly. So let's just assume my goal is 240,000. This is a big one that I feel like people don't track, and it creates a domino effect of problems. But if I lock up 10 contracts and only 7 close because 3 fall out due to title, whatever, that's normal, right? So I have a 70% success rate. If it's below 65 to 70, you likely have a internal problem, whether it's dispo, acquisitions, underwriting, something like that. So 70 to 80 is probably where you should be sitting. Sometimes we go down to 60, 65 because I ran into a problem with the closer or whatever. So if my goal is 240, I plug in my average profit per deal. So I'm just making this up. So 240 divided by 20 means I need to close 12 deals to hit my goal. But since I have a 70% success rate, we take the 12 divided by the 70%, and I actually have to lock up 17 contracts because only 12 will close. And this is made up as well. These are not my numbers, but let's just assume that you land one of every 5 offers in your company, and it takes 1 of 20 leads to get a deal. So you plug these in. It goes down to the week, month, and quarter. Okay, so if these were my numbers, every week my marketing person is responsible for 28 leads, my acquisitions, 7 offers, and 1 to 2 deals to hit this goal, whatever the 240,000 a quarter. Then we make the decision, okay, what does the team need to look like to handle this versus starting on the other end and then providing the leads, if that makes sense. Now, how many of you guys have partners or spouses or whatever that you work with? Many of you?
Sure.
I'm sure a couple of you. So what happens is partnerships and spouses, they tend to kind of do a little bit of everything or whatever. if you didn't notice, I said that's Josh's job. Like, I don't even know the answer to it because I stay the fuck out of his lane, right? So I stay in my lane, he stays in his, and he's responsible for acquisitions and construction. Do I know enough to be dangerous? Yeah, but when I show up to our level 10, he has a clear fucking KPI and it's his job to hit it. And if he doesn't, then he needs to come with solutions of how we're going to hit it. It's my job to provide whatever, this 28 leads. And so we now hold each other accountable to these. Now, these are just basic metrics, but it gets you to the point of like basic leads, offers, contracts, etc. And then we have this all the way down to like cost per lead, all of that. And so that way and then we take it down to the marketing channel. So many people will say, oh, I watched this YouTube training and it sounds like whatever, PPC is a great option. Cool. But like most people will go to their bank account and say, oh, I have $5,000. Let's just test 5-10 grand, throw it at it and see how it does. That is not how to operate. If my goal is to make 100,000 in a month, my profit per deal is 20,000, my success rate 70, let's just say 20 leads to get a deal is more normal. My goal is to make a 4x ROI at 100,000. So it says, right? Let's play with the numbers. I have to, the max I can spend then is 175 a lead, which means my estimated cost per deal will be 4,900 and I'll have to spend about 25,000 in order to hit this goal. But what happens is people will be like, oh, I took this ball of money out of my bank, threw it at it just to see how it does. And then I'm pissed off that I didn't hit the 100 grand. So the beauty is I always tell everyone in the beginning, if you can properly onboard, train, and manage closers, if we can get you or their skill set to be top notch, the skill set, before we ever go spend more money on marketing, this 20 might go to 1 of 12. Now I have a 6x ROI by just being good at training, managing the skill set. Now, what it also allows me to do is outbid my competitors. I can keep going up in price per lead now to hit my goal because I know how to close better than my competition. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
I have this for direct mail and cold calling, and they all have different formulas because they're different, ways of going to business. So when I go to launch a channel, what happens is like people will say, I'm going to hire this cold caller because someone said this cold calling company is good. I'm like, okay, well, what's your expectation? Because we need to reverse engineer based on your goal. It'll tell you how many callers you need, how many leads they need to produce, and how they should be performing, or it's not going to hit the goal. And so once we reverse engineer, then we say, okay, if my goal is 150,000 a month in revenue, and I want to make a 4x on this, I bring it down. It tells me all the way down to how many leads I'm going to provide. Okay, I'm likely going to now need a closer, 2 closers, 3 closers, etc. Does that make sense? And then we reverse engineer our outcome based on the data, not like backwards. I think a lot of times people build it backwards.
Yeah. Guys, and just to give you some context. So I met Tiffany and Josh High like years ago on the 2-day event that they do in their office. And I know they're going to start doing the office and then moving towards a new format. But while they do that, I think it's very worth it for you guys to go to the 2-day event that they actually have in Ohio.
Well, so we actually are virtual now.
Okay.
So we had like a ton of people in the industry that were like, I get it, dude. Gas is crazy. Flights are crazy. So this is actually our first month ever where we're taking our 2-day workshop fully virtual, and it's next week.
Wow.
I definitely didn't plan to talk about this, so I don't have a link with me or anything. But also because it's virtual, we get to sell it for super cheap now. It used to be $3,000. You had to get a flight, get a hotel, all that. We only charge $497, and you can put your whole team on it if you want. So yeah, it's a no-brainer. But just to give you an idea of what our event's all about, it is all about how do we recruit, onboard, train, manage our acquisitions on day one. And really how we approach that is on day one, we're going to onboard you as if you're my closer. So we're going to put you through the ringer as if you're mine so that you can go through it and be like, oh, okay, so this is the version of good with onboarding. So we're going to go through the sales psychology, the script training. We're going to do a live call audit in front of you. We're going to go through the scorecard. We're going to say, hey, if this metric's off, this is what we go do as the leader. If this metric's off, here's the 5 things that we have to go do to bring the metric back to performance. On day 2, we're going to go over advanced marketing. So we'll go through like all of our marketing channels, KPI tracking. How do we know what to cut, double down on? We go over dispo in detail, raising private money, flipping versus wholesaling, all that stuff on day 2. And so anyways, if you guys are interested, I'm happy to give Esteban the link.
Yeah. And guys, I highly recommend it. I did the in-person one. It not only helped the real estate businesses of every client that I had, but it helped actually the other businesses that I own. If you guys are in the replay or the YouTube video or watching it on school, I'll put it in the description below. So you guys can go into the 2-day event that is happening now virtually, and also follow Tiffany High on her social media.
Yeah,
Are you still,
yeah,
are you
guys.
still launching?
I have to pop off because I have a dentist appointment. Just a heads up. So resultsdrivenrei.com. I did put the workshop right there. We also, guys, have lots of free trainings. So like, I was not coming on here to pitch anything, just so you guys are aware. I would have prepared something, but yeah, I mean, this is our bread and butter, like really building out, how do we onboard, train, pay people? How do we hold them accountable to scorecards? How do we reverse engineer our numbers? Like, we don't teach newbies. We take an experienced investor who's been wearing every hat in the business, who's probably operating kind of fly by night, and we put in infrastructure. And what happens for some reason in the wholesaling and flipping space is it's like we wear every hat, we go 100 miles an hour, and then we wake up one day and we're like having fucking panic attacks because we're wearing every hat. And when you do that, you can never become consistent. So whether you want to do 2 deals a month or 30, it doesn't matter. Like, to create consistency, we have to put in the infrastructure in order for it to thrive before we ever scale. And a lot of people are like, I want to grow, I want to scale, I want to make more money. It's like, okay, well then first, let's put in the systems, people, and processes, and then scale.
Yes.
You just described me to a T.
Yeah. Trust me, I know. I've been through it all.
All right, guys.
Thank you.
Please give a
thank you.
huge shout out to Tiffany. Tiffany is she is the white Latina. She calls it that. She calls herself like that, white Latina. So you guys are either part of Remote Latinos or Hustle Media. Please give a huge shout out to Tiffany and Josh for putting this together and giving us their time. All right. So.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Every Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern, we bring in operators and experts breaking down what's actually working for real estate investors right now, completely free. Link to join the community is in the description. We'll see you there.